Hello and welcome. I'm Patrick Curtis, your host and chief monkey, and this is the Wall Street Oasis podcast. Join me as I talk to some of the community's most successful and inspirational members to gain valuable insight into different career paths and life in general. Let's get to it. In this episode, Max shares his path on how he broke into investment banking in London, coming from a non-target school in Italy. Learn how networking played a role, how he made the cut during a competitive intern year with an offer rate under 50%, and how he was able to close 10 deals in under 4 years once he joined full-time. Listen to his struggles with private equity recruiting and how he balanced the difficult process with his full-time banking role to successfully land on his feet. Enjoy. All right, Max, welcome to the Wall Street Oasis podcast.
Hey, Patrick. Nice to be here with you.
It'd be awesome if you could just start just by giving the listeners a short summary of your bio.
Sure. So, I've studied my university in Italy. It was, corporate management. And then after that, I moved to London. I worked in Credit Suisse investment banking for 4 years. It was like an amazing experience because, I had the chance to work for different teams, so product teams, but also industry teams. So overall, in 4 years, I had the chance to work on 10 transactions, also across different countries, Spain, Italy, France, Germany, UK, and across different products. So clearly a lot of M&A, buy side and sell side, but also ECM, DCM, leverage finance. Wow. So a really rewarding experience, I must say. A lot of work, though. You
got a lot. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it didn't come for free.
And then after that, you transitioned to PE, correct?
Yeah, correct. So then of course, I had an internship, then started as a full-time analyst in Credit Suisse, got promoted to associate. And then at the end of my 4th year, I found a job for a lower mid-cap firm. Mm-hmm. So it's a company, it's a recent established firm with offices in London and New York. Happy to tell you more about it.
Sure. So let's start all the way back, though, first at your university. So tell me about, did you always know you wanted to be an economics or business major, or how did you kind of come across that? Was investment banking on your radar back then?
It's funny because I'm probably one of the few people that didn't even know what investment banking was back then. What I knew, after my school, of course, I wanted to go to university, and then, had a book with all the different degrees, and then I started going through it, and at the end, the one that looked more interesting for me, or the broader one, probably was, doing something with, economy, management. Because I think that, unless you have like a great idea of what you want to do, then probably choosing that path, it's the one that give you, more options in the future.
Mm-hmm. And
so that's yeah.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about just your university. Was it considered like a feeder into investment banking in Italy? Because there's only a few, right? There's only a few like target schools.
So, no, exactly. There are a few target schools, and mine wasn't one of these. But it's a very well known and
it's respected academically.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I think what helped me to get my internship in investment banking was, first of all, I got with maximum marks, cum laude. Then I had an entrepreneurial experience. I was also very active, charity. I was like playing golf at national level. So I think that it complemented my profile, even though I was not from one of these target university, and that's why they considered
you had like a 4.0 GPA basically. You had like a
Correct.
Perfect GPA, so you're at top of your class at a well-respected university. So that and then you also were almost a semi-pro golfer. It sounds like.
Correct.
Or almost pro.
Not, I never got pro, but
Close.
I was almost. Yeah.
Wow. Do you still play?
Yeah, I do. Not as often, but I still do with some friends and even colleagues. That's the cool thing about golf. There are a lot of people playing, so you always find it.
You like to just kick everyone's ass in your company.
Yeah. I try.
So tell me about the entrepreneurial endeavor. I think a lot of the listeners would be curious about that. So while you're in university, you started something?
Exactly. So with a bunch of friends, we came up with this platform for amateur soccer player. So it's a sort of, imagine, I mean, we're talking back then, it was 2010, 2011, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Facebook and all the social media, of course, they were already there. They were quite famous, but not as they are now.
Yeah.
And so what we saw there, it was an opportunity to, people playing soccer. And, when you want to do it, you need to find a pitch, football pitch, you need to organize it with people and you need to call it. It was very manual. And also the tournaments, for example, were done very, everything was on paper. So we developed this online platform, very similar on the Facebook interface. And then the idea was, to launch it. So we raised some money and we were doing this whilst we were studying. And we started, selling the product because the idea was to go to, the whatever who were the managers of the sports facilities, but also the event organizer and selling them this as a managerial tool for them. Right. At the same time, we were getting data from the users. So that was like an amazing experience if you think about it, that we were just students and we started from basically an idea, right?
And so tell me, was it just a mobile app where people could say there are different pitches like in the app that would say,
exactly.
Hey,
imagine search engine, you start looking for a football pitch in your area, and then from there you say, okay, you create like an event, and then you share it with your friends, you invite them, and maybe you don't have enough people, so then there are other people in the area that they would like to play same day, same hour, so then you could invite them. So it was a way to bring people together. Then of course you were getting a lot of data from those users, and you were making it fun for everyone and saving them a lot of time.
Very cool. So did it get any traction?
Look, it did at the beginning. Then, of course, as most of the startup, you need to raise a lot of money because at the beginning they are all cash negative, and that was at the point where we were almost done with our studies, and we start getting like all of us good offers. Either I got it in investment banking, as other people got it in consulting, and that was the time 2011, particularly in Italy. It was not like a great moment, so we felt, we had like this great job secured, and
take the security and coming out of the great financial crisis.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about kind of how you landed that internship. You said you got looks because you had a high GPA and you had, some other interesting things that made you unique, including the semi-pro golf and stuff like that. Did you just apply online, or how did you even recruit or network, or how did you do it?
So look, I think it's above of everything, in the sense that mainly was online application, but then of course and that's my suggestion for everyone that wants to apply to investment banking is the best way is that if you find someone within the bank, first of all because you want to learn and they will give you great insights, but then at the same time it's a way to if I know you and I know that you're good, then I will go to my HR and tell them, guys, I know this guy is very good. We should look into it, into his profile, and see if it's a good match. So
I always hear that's tough in London, though. Like it's much more strict in terms of the networking. Do you feel that way, or what's it like in Italy?
I don't know in Italy because I've always applied
in London, right?
Yes, exactly.
So but for London, isn't it more strict? Like they force everyone to go through to get even a first round interview. Don't you have to?
You do. But then I'm sure that you can. Also when I was at my time, if I knew that there was some guy or girl out of university with very strong that I think it could be a good fit, then I would give a call to HR, and then of course it's up to them. But also for them, you make their life easier, because they have a lot of candidates. And if you are a person that is well trusted within the bank, then I'm sure they will consider it. I'm not telling you that you will get an offer.
Yeah. So for all the London monkeys out there that complain that networking doesn't work in London, it's not true.
No, it is important. It is not the only
it's
way.
Not. I think in the US, I think people see like these crazy stories of people with low GPA being able to network their way into a first round interview from like a non-target. And that's, I think, maybe a little more rare. Like you need to have the stats
Exactly.
London.
Exactly. I think. Look, if I didn't have all, the good marks, my entrepreneurial experience, the charity, the sports, and everything, I think it would have been tough for me, even if I knew.
So let's do a thought experiment. What if you had like you're basically 4.0. Let's say you had a 3.0 GPA, or instead of 110 out of 110 or whatever, you were like 80 out of 110. So pretty mediocre, pretty average. Do you think you could have gotten a first round interview?
From a non-target university, I think it would have been difficult.
From your school?
Yeah, I think it would have been difficult.
You think people just would have said, sorry, it's just we don't recruit there. They would have been less likely to take phone calls, stuff like that. But putting yourself in that shoes, knowing what you know, do you think you would have been able to do it? Like I land maybe not at a Credit Suisse, maybe not at a bulge bracket, but maybe at another bank?
Maybe in another bank, yes. Maybe in another bank, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just curious, because I always find that interesting. Okay, so you had a little bit of entrepreneurial experience coming into kind of your junior summer. You ended up landing an internship. So the first interview, how did you even know? Did you get interviews at other banks for internships?
Yeah, so I applied to different banks, and that was for the autumn internship. And then
but were you calling people before then, like at the banks, to talk to them?
So I knew someone at some of them. I had some friends, Italian, that they were already working in London in other investment banks. And so then, of course, before, I called them, and I also meet them and asked them, to help me to prepare. So what are the questions that they ask you?
Did they go to your school or something? How did you know them?
Network.
How did you network? LinkedIn?
No, but also, I grew up, in a small town in the north of Italy, and I don't know, I don't want to say by chance, but those guys that ended up working in other banks like JP Morgan, Goldman, Deutsche, they were from my town, and they were from one of these target universities.
Got it.
So yeah, they knew me, and that's also the reason why I started applying for investment banking was because of that. Because I was more for consulting, the likes of Bain,
BCG,
McKinsey, BCG, exactly.
Yeah.
But because they all were doing investment banking, so I said, okay, why don't you guys tell me more? And then I said, oh, actually, it sounds interesting.
So these were actual friends of yours that were older, or just that had kind of were a year or two?
Yeah, 1 or 2 years older than me.
Perfect.
Yeah. And so exactly, so they were quite fresh.
But you didn't have you didn't have any consulting friends that were trying to pull you over, or just less? There just happened to be more bankers from your town.
Yes, that's correct.
Family, friends, that type of thing.
Yes.
So how much? So how many other internship interviews did you have from
so I had 2. So in total, I had 3 interviews, and I ended up then having an offer from Credit Suisse, and
the other 2 you didn't have offers from the other 2. Do you remember where you interviewed?
No. Yeah, JP and Deutsche.
Okay, and then sorry, I keep interrupting you, but I just find this part's really important, because I think hearing about like how you had friends. Do you feel like with those connections that you had, if your GPA was lower, we said this, you don't think you would have been able to land that Credit Suisse because coming from that non-traditional school, it would have been too much?
I think it would have been more difficult.
Yeah.
Again, as I was telling you, network can help sometimes.
Yeah.
But then
But would you have gotten that first round interview with that guy calling HR, like your friend calling HR, maybe? And then you would have done really well?
No, I think I would in any case, because I got it from the other banks. And my friends back then, they were all just analysts. So I don't think that would have changed a lot, right?
Yeah, okay.
I think you need to go, ideally you should have someone a bit more senior.
Okay, fair. Sorry, keep going. So you had the internship, you landed the internship with Credit Suisse, and then you're celebrating?
Yeah, so it was a very quite tough period, because of course it's very competitive. There are a lot of people and not that many spots available, so you really need to work very hard, show everyone that you have what they want, that you can do the job. And for me, the most important thing, and that's what I like about it, is that people don't judge you for, at least that was my experience in Credit Suisse, right? But they don't judge you for who you are when you start the internship, but for who you became at the end of the internship. For example, when I started, for me, it was my first internship in investment banking. And with me in my class, there were people that had maybe done another 1 or 2 internships at other banks. So for them, they already already knew everything, right? Because more or less they're very similar the way they teach you, and so for them clearly it was very easy to do everything. But I was starting from zero. I didn't know what public comparables were when I started. It was these guys that have already done it for 4 months.
Yeah.
So, but what really counted, and the reason why I got the offer is because maybe I started from a lower level than other people, but then by the end of the internship, I was probably better than those guys, or at least at the same level, and that's something that they really saw the step that I did from beginning to the end, and that's something that they really liked.
And tell me about when you say as good as or better, what would you qualify as the most important thing to be classified as a good intern or a great intern? Obviously, the growth is super important. But is it demonstrating modeling skills? Is it communication? Tell me how you do that.
Yeah, I think it's a 360 approach, right? So of course you need to. It's fine, again, as I told you, it's fine if you don't know things at the beginning, but then people want you to be quick. So learn quick, show that you understood and you can do it. So that's important. And of course, you need to be very committed. There are a lot of very smart kids that, maybe since they were at university, they wanted to do investment banking. And then when they joined, then they realized that it's not for them. Maybe because they don't like the pressure, they don't like the hours, they don't like the environment. And people notice that. People that work with you understand if you really are, if you're enjoying your internship, if you're motivated. You need to be a team player. I remember basically, I was one of the first in my team to get in the morning. So usually 8:45 a.m. Usually people start from 9 onward, right? I was 8:45 and I was the last one to leave. And I remember times, at 2 a.m. asking for other, analysts or associates that they were maybe very busy working on a live deal or something, and asking them if they needed my help. And that's something that people appreciate, right? And maybe there was nothing that I could help them because maybe it was something too complicated for me as an intern. But still, I was there. I could have gone home without saying anything whilst I was. So attitude is very important.
Yeah. So you were willing to basically suffer for the internship to make sure that you were seen as a team player, willing to sacrifice and help everyone out. That's great.
If I can add, Patrick, I think it's very important at the beginning, and that's my suggestion to everyone, to whoever starts an internship or even a full-time analyst role. The first months are the most important in your banking career, because that's when when people get to know you and when you create your own brand. So if you start with the right foot, then everything gets easier in the longer term.
Yeah, this is why I always say the kids that come in with the financial modeling training. I mean, I came from a liberal arts background. I was a disaster. Like for the first 6 months I was at Rothschild in New York, and we were eventually got put on the restructuring team, and I had the right attitude. So I'll work really late. I just didn't have the skill set. It took me 4, 5, 6 months to really get. And then once I was there, boom, I put out. I was really well trusted and put on a lot of live deals. But I think it's hard if you don't have the background. I mean, you had a little bit of the finance, I assume, some modeling or
no? But not that much. I've done some corporate finance courses at university, but it was mainly management.
But you picked it up finance. Super fast. I mean, you're 4.0.
Yes, but exactly. But also remember, they teach you everything you need to know during those weeks of training. So if you pay attention and if you're keen to learn, in a couple of weeks you're up to speed, right?
Yeah, for sure. Cool. So, okay, so you're kind of coming through, and it's funny. You're up to speed unless you're like me, who is slower than usual.
It worked out well for you as well, no?
It worked out well. I did well by the end, but it was a painful first 6 months. So you're kind of coming out. You're really sacrificing. I noticed that your internship was October to December. Is that normal?
It's the autumn internship. So the way it works in I don't know now, but I guess it's more or less the same. But at least at my time, it was a summer and autumn internship. Before, they were probably doing also a spring internship, even though probably was a smaller internship.
Yeah. So how many seats were? So you talked about a couple of things. You said it's super competitive. So about how many people were with you and how many seats were available?
Yeah, look, the class is smaller than the summer class usually. So we were about probably 20 people, but I think less than 10 people got an offer.
Like around 8 people. So, wow. So it was, it was
pretty tough year, right? You're still 2012-ish, so it's
exactly.
Things
So
fully
it was
recovered.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so pretty competitive, and you were one of those people, even though you didn't have previous background. That's impressive that you actually were able to snag one of those spots.
Thank you.
But so you're kind of coming into this and then thinking, wow, that was a really tough fall. And then coming into it, you get one of those offers. Do you accept right away, or do you think, hey, I'm going to go? You do accept right away. Okay.
No, I accepted right away, and then I had some time off, and then I started in the next year in July.
Okay, so you didn't go back to school at all, or that was it? That was
no, I was already done. In my case, I was already done with school. Yeah. But most of the people actually they do their internship during their last year of university. So yeah.
So then you're kind of have a little time off. What did you do in that time off before knowing what it was like as an intern, knowing what the analysts were doing? What did you do?
Yes. So first of all, the month after I had some time off. So, enjoying, I went back home, spent time with, family, friends. And then before starting, I had a lot of time. Again, I was done with my studies. So I decided I didn't want to waste time. And I did two things. So, as I told you before, I was working even before Credit Suisse. And so when I was at university, I was working for a charity. So in those months, I continued working for a charity. And then I also went to Spain and I spent a few months there learning the language. At the end of the day, if you're Italian, it doesn't take you a lot of time to learn Spanish. So I thought it was it was a good use of my time and learn another language, which by the way, it ended up being a great idea because when I started working as a full-time analyst, I spent a lot of time, particularly during my first year, working with the Madrid office. So that was great. Of course you can do it as well speaking English, but if you can speak the local language, I think you connect better with your colleagues and also with the clients. So it's a plus. So I'm happy I did that.
For sure. That's interesting. Yeah. So you didn't really take too much of a break, it sounds like, but you stayed busy.
Yeah.
So, okay. Tell me what was like those first few months starting. So they put you through training and then everyone's nervous. How many people are starting with you?
Training about 50 people back then. It was great, because of course you work hard also during the training because you have, lessons every day. And then once you're done, you have like homework. And so you end up, finishing in the evening, depending on how quick you are. But also it's great because, you are in a class with 50 people or more that come from all around the world with very interesting background. Most of the people are new to London, so everyone wanted to, to get to know each other, have, start friendships. So we spent a lot of time, our free time, going out, getting to know each other. So we were going for restaurants, we were going, clubbing. So it was not. Yes.
And how long did that last before the reality of work hit? A month?
I think the training was about a month or a month and a half. I don't remember exactly now. And then straight to the desk. And then I must say it was another 6 months of very, very hard work. Because again, as I was telling you, it's, first of all, you are not as quick as you would like to be because again, you're quite new, you're doing new things, modeling and stuff like that. And also at the same time, again, you want to establish your brand. So you want to do everything the best way you can. And that means that it will take a bit longer, right? But then at the end, it pays off. So, my suggestion to everyone is, I know it's a difficult start for most of us, but really in the long term, it pays off. I'm very glad I did that.
In those first few months coming out on hitting the desk, did you feel like you were in the middle of the pack in terms of skill level, near the top? You can be honest. No one knows who you are. So
yeah.
And how did you even measure yourself? Did they tell you like, hey, you did this well on the exams, or you did?
So first of all, you get a lot of feedback from your teammates. So the way it works is that when you start, you have a buddy, which is usually a third year analyst. So someone that has more experience that guides you. And at the beginning, you work with him. So you learn a lot and he gives you a lot of feedback and he's responsible for you. And then there is also like, a schedule of things that I need to learn within the first month, second, third months, and so on. So they keep track and they make sure that I get all the skills that I need to then become like a independent analyst, if you want.
Yeah.
So that's a sort of, and then I guess it's a lot of talking with your other colleagues, same class, and understand what they're doing, how they're doing it, and so then you get a sort of a benchmark.
Mm-hmm. And were you put on mostly pitches initially, or did they give you live deals right away? And
I was. Look, it depends on luck in the sense that I started pretty soon on a deal. Other people, it took them longer.
Mm-hmm.
But it's luck. Look, in 4 years, I closed 10 deals, which I think it's a good number.
Mm-hmm.
And I know other people that in 4 years they closed a few deals. And I'm not saying that I was better than them or I deserved those deals more than them.
Yeah. Do you feel like it kind of fed on itself? I think with what happened with me is once people realized they could trust me, they just kept putting me on more live deals.
Yeah.
Like with the same team, with the same group.
Because, but it's true. But sometimes the problem is that you work on live deals, but then you have no certainty if those deals will close, right? So there are a lot of people that work on live deals, but then at the end they don't get the credits because they didn't fell through.
Right. Right. That's fair. So tell me a little bit about just the progression of, from analyst to associate, and then also I want to hear about when private equity came up on your radar. Was it something that the class was talking about right away, or was it something that kind of came up later?
Yeah. So I think it's a lot of people from your class. They have in mind private equity, so you learn about it from your colleagues pretty soon after your start. But then for me, that I also had the chance to work on live deals with both large and mid cap Ps. Mm-hmm. And that's when I got really, really interested because I saw what they were doing. And, I really loved my experience in investment banking. I would do it again and again. But I think that what I was missing is, I was coming from a university where I was doing a lot of, my studies were based on, management.
Mm-hmm.
So I was missing a bit the operational part. Investment banking is very transactional.
Mm-hmm.
And what I understood in private equity is that you get both. So of course you work on deals there, you need to close them, and that's when investment banking is a great training. But at the same time, the problem is that investment banking, particularly when you're a junior, once you close a deal, then you move on to the next deal.
Yeah.
And so unless you want to follow that company, you will not have a lot of chances to know what's happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you're in private equity, once you have closed a deal, then it means you have acquired a company, you have a company in your portfolio, and that's when the game starts actually, because then you need to, there is all the monitoring, you need to work closely with the management, and maybe it depends on from fund to fund, but you can be involved in the value creation plan.
Did you know that? Did you know all of this kind of seeing on the deals? Is it something that kind of the people told you, or it was just obvious to you? Because I know when somebody told me about private equity, I would think I was a second-year analyst before I even knew what private equity was. This shows you how long ago. I think every banker now knows before they even start what it is. But back then, it wasn't this huge kind of well-known, especially for a liberal arts kid like me. I didn't know anything. And I remember the kid one of my fellow analysts handed me a packet saying, "Here, study this. This is what an LBO is. And this is what you need to know for the interviews." But what about you?
It was similar in my case, in the sense that, as I told you, I've learned about investment banking through friends. Then I've learned about private equity when I was in investment banking.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had some of those friends that they told me about investment banking. Then they moved to private equity. So then they started telling me what private equity was really about.
Got it.
So,
cool.
Yeah.
So that's good. I mean, almost having friends that are mentors that are 1 or 2 years older that are kind of paving a way for you, in a sense, giving you that insight, probably makes you a better interviewer too.
Definitely. Look, the suggestion is it's tough. The interview process in private equity. There is also a lot of pressure. I feel candidate, at least I was feeling pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are not a lot of opportunities. Then it depends when you are. There are certain years, and it's the same for investment banking, but where there is more demand, other years where there is less demand, and you have a window to get out of investment banking, right? So when you have those opportunities.
So tell me about that. Yes. Tell me about how so when you first learned about it, like, was it second year analyst, or was it, or you started hearing about it right away, but then?
Yeah. I think right away also because, sorry if I interrupt you, but because you have headhunters that they start calling you even when you're a first year analyst. In our class, the first guy that went to private equity, he left investment banking after 6 months from the beginning of a first year analyst. Wow. 6 months.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's common nowadays, but back then that was
but back then less. Now it's more and more, and I'm sure that even before me was even less common.
Yeah.
But I think the window is, end of the average, I would say, end of first year analyst up to third year analyst, maybe beginning of your fourth year associate. When I was associate, I had less interviews or less call from headhunters than when I was an analyst.
Yeah, it's interesting how you kind of start getting pigeonholed as, oh no, he or she is staying, right? So tell me how the recruiting process progressed. So you were getting some calls, I assume, as a first year analyst, just to introduce, start talking to people. Who were the headhunters? What was the experience like? Did you get some interviews right off the bat, or did you?
Yeah. Look, the headhunters are the most well known in London. So is Walker Hamill, Kia Consultants, Blackwood. Who else? I mean, there are different ones, but so those guys usually they ask, because then they were asking me when I was a third year analyst associate, who are the good people in your team? Who are the strong candidates? Maybe they're looking for, a German speaker, second year analyst. So do you know anyone in your class that is a strong candidate? So I got called by those guys because someone else that I don't know who recommended me to those people. Okay. And the thing is that, again, another suggestion is, back then I didn't know, but those guys, even during the first call, they were already interviewing me. They were trying to understand, is this guy like a really strong candidate? And I was again starting to get to know about private equity. I was not even thinking about an interview in private equity, and those people were already interviewing you, right? So my suggestion is also, make sure, since the first call you have with headhunters, make sure that you have a proper, consider it as an interview and do your best. Because then, if those people think that you're not good, then, they will probably call you less. It will be more difficult. So be careful.
So did that hurt? Did that happen to you? Like, where you felt like you weren't as prepared and you didn't land as many interviews as you could have?
Yeah, look, I think with one, I made a mistake. And because he wanted me to go for an interview, I accepted it. Then it was a period that I was completely busy on a live deal. So really sleeping a few hours per night, a lot of work. I didn't have the time to prepare at all. And, I didn't want to go and have an interview on a private equity without having, because I know that these interviews are tough. So I didn't want to go there and look like stupid, right?
Yeah.
So I canceled the interview and then I canceled it and I rescheduled it and I canceled it another time because I was hoping that then by then I would have had more time to prepare. And that's when the headhunter got annoyed because I said, it's embarrassing for my client because, they're waiting for you and you don't make yourself available. And that's when, that didn't help me with the headhunter. Luckily, that was only one of the many headhunters, right? So it was okay. And it was okay, but that's another thing. Yeah.
Were you able to kind of, so how many interviews did you actually get, first round interviews did you get scheduled through these headhunters for? And was it all the interviews you landed, were they all through headhunters?
Yes. Look, I know that there are people that they get interviews through their network, but there are not that many. Not that many. But I think that in private equity, network is even more important than in investment banking. Because if you think about it, yes. Because if you think about it, when you go and work for an investment bank, you usually join a big team. Yeah. So even if you are not the right fit, it's okay. There is a turnover. You can always get fired. You can move on, whatever. In private equity, usually there are smaller teams. So fit is even more important. Mm-hmm. So of course, if I know someone and I know that or maybe I worked with this person when I was in investment banking, is a strong analyst. And when I moved to private equity and when that firm is looking to hire someone, if I can recommend that person, then of course will be considered even more than in investment banking.
Tell me a little bit about, so you had how many interviews? 6, 5, 3?
Oh, wow.
10?
More than, I think, I would say so. But, remember it was, starting from as a first year, then second year, not that much. And then
because you were so busy? Because you were so busy?
But also because, I moved different teams. I was telling you, product and then also, how do you call it? Not country, industry teams, coverage team. Exactly. So, every time you start in a new team is like if you were starting again from zero. Of course, again, you built your brand and people talk. So they knew that I was a good analyst, but you want to show them in reality. So then it means that you need to, again, refocus, work very hard. So
sounds miserable.
But it was a great experience at the end. You're right. It's a lot of work, but the experience that I got in these 4 years was crazy. And I still sometimes think, wow, did I do all this?
Yeah, you got like 8 years of experience in 4 years.
True.
Yeah.
Completely true.
And it's cool that you did DCM, ECM, M&A, you did different countries, cross-border transactions, everything, right?
Yes.
So
and that's when you really learn a lot.
Can you share a little bit? So with those interviews that you're doing from first year all the way through third year, all the way through associate, I assume, almost, right? Because you were an associate before you got your offer, I assume.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about did you progress? Did you get close to taking any other offers, or did you flame out in every single first round? What do you feel like? I mean, I'm surprised you didn't get an offer before.
Yeah, the most of the interviews I had them then when I was at the end of my third year analyst, because that's when I really made up my mind and I said, okay, I'm serious about it. I want to move into private equity. And that's when I start preparing. That's when I start, be serious about it. So the majority were there. And then again, I think it depends, right? It's really, sometimes you go for the first round and either you don't like them or they don't like you. Sometimes you go close to or you are in the final round and then it's between you and another guy and they choose the other guy.
And that happened to you a few times?
Yes. Yeah. And it's really depressing because
you
imagine
think you have it. You're right there. Yeah. There's one seat. You have 50-50 shot or whatever.
And imagine maybe, it's a period where you're working extremely hard and you are committed to your job. In the meantime, you're getting ready for these interviews. And then you're almost there.
Did you pretend you have doctor's appointments, or did the people in your group know you were recruiting?
No, it's better not to say. My suggestion is never say it.
But that's brutal.
I mean, if it's a close friend,
you have to get away.
Yeah. If it's a close friend that you can really trust, fine. Otherwise, I wouldn't say, because it doesn't. It's not good. No. Yeah. My suggestion is don't say that.
So you had twice. You got to the final round and you didn't get it, or 3 times, something like that.
Yeah. And then, look, I don't remember. Then other times it was maybe the second, then it depends. Some funds, they have like 4 rounds. Other, they have 8 rounds. Yeah. Other 10, it really depends. But look, at the end of the day, what the most important thing is that you don't have to give up. Again, very annoying, depressing when you get close to get an offer and then you don't get it. And then maybe it takes months before you get another interview, because, there are some certain periods during the year where you get more interviews, and then past that point, then maybe for another 3-4 months, there is nothing. Right?
Yeah.
So you really need, I see a lot of friends of mine, ex-colleagues, that they were as good as me, or maybe even better than me, that they gave up because they had they got close to get an offer, they didn't get it. And they decided, okay, so it's very difficult. It's not working out. I give up. But if you really want it, don't give up. Keep pushing, and at the end you will have it. That's my suggestion. It can take really. Again, some people maybe they go first interview ever.
But do you feel like if you had not gotten this offer and all of a sudden you're a second-year associate, do the opportunities just start getting less and less frequent? Probably.
Yes.
So you don't have forever, but you have a good 3-year window, technically.
Yes, correct. But again, in my case, I didn't start as a first year analyst saying, right, I want to go to private equity.
You were third year. You really didn't focus till third year analyst.
Correct.
Okay. Correct. So tell me a little bit about just how you prepared? Was it just focusing on your deals, knowing those down cold, being able to talk about them? Was it doing some LBO modeling tests? What did you do to focus?
Yeah, first of all, and that's something that most of the candidates don't focus that much, but you need to have a great story, because that's usually the first question that they ask you, right? So tell me about you. Why do you want to join private equity? Mm-hmm. And that sounds a very stupid question, but it's probably one of the most important questions they will ask you. So again, my suggestion is make sure you prepare yourself very well, because again, one of the first questions, and if you answer it right, then you start on the right way. And again,
what's the right way to answer that question, in your opinion?
Well, look, my opinion is, by the way, you need to be honest. You need to, for me, was that, I loved investment banking. I loved all the transactional, skills that I've learned, but I was missing that operational part that I told you. Mm-hmm. And with private equity, I understood that I could get the best of both worlds, the consulting or entrepreneurial experience together with the investment banking experience.
Yeah,
and that's what I was missing.
You could point to your education in management.
Yes, correct. But that's when I exactly. So I told them about, the fact that I started I studied management. Then whilst I was there, I did this entrepreneurial, experience, this venture with my friends. It didn't go well, but I've learned a lot. And then from there, I did investment banking. And again, as I was telling you, I worked across different sectors, countries, products. So I learned a lot. And of course, you need to be good in modeling. So it's, as I was telling you, one is preparing yourself on why you want to move to private equity. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, modeling and case studies as well. Because, sometimes what happens is that they ask you to do just an LBO and that's it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you start from an IM, so an information memorandum, mm-hmm. and you have to then, of course, create an LBO. But then you also have to maybe put together some pages on the opportunity, say, what do you like? The investment highlights, for example.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, and there are some good case studies, books on case studies that people should buy. I mean, I've read those books and they help you to prepare, because that's when you, for example,
I'll put a plug in our private equity interview course. We actually crowdsourced a bunch of private equity cases and modeling tests, and we've scrubbed them so that the PE funds don't come after us, but a lot of good stuff in there. They're coming straight from the actual interviews. But you're right. Things have shifted a little bit more from a pure. There are still funds that give the pure LBO modeling test, but a lot more are now trying to see how you think as an investor.
And I think it's important, Patrick, because the LBO is nothing difficult.
Right.
I mean, it's something, once you have done it a few times, mm-hmm. there is not a big science behind it, right? Everyone can do a proper LBO.
Especially if you've done banking for almost 4 years. You're like in your sleep.
Exactly. But what you want to understand, really, what you want to assess, if the person that you're interviewing has some brain and really has some business understanding, if he can think and see what can be done with a certain company, how can you grow it, how can you generate value at the end of the day.
Did you have all 10 deals on your resume?
Yes.
Did you feel like that
back then, yes. Now, not anymore. But
did you feel like that I would be nervous, because the way I typically say if people are prep is oftentimes like have 3 or 4, but know them cold, like know them every single number. Did you feel like you were getting, because if I was your interviewer, I would have picked like someone 6 down or something.
So I prepared on all of them.
Yeah.
But remember that they will ask you most of the time. Sometimes they ask you, tell me about a deal that you close, so you can choose. Okay. Mm-hmm. And most of the time they focus on the M&A deals. So, the IPO, follow-ons, leverage finance deals that I've done, they were, unless it's an industry that fund really covers. So they will want to know. But then at that point, they will ask you, so how do you think about this business? How do you think about the sector?
Yeah. But you had all those answers. You either, did you study for that as well when you were prepping?
I prepared myself. Yeah.
And so that's why you were making it to final rounds, even though you got a few heartbreaking losses at the end. That's why you were getting there.
Yeah. But it's a learning curve, Patrick. The first interview, at least that was my case. I was not ready as I wanted to. But then after you do some interviews, then at the end you also understand what questions. Then you get more comfortable.
It's a skill.
Yeah, you gain confidence, right? And that's when you start, mastering it. And then that's when you're ready to get an offer.
The first interviews are so hard for anything, for any new industry, whether it's banking, private equity, hedge fund, anything. You just, because the reps just help you so much. So I always tell people, like, if you have an interview or you think you're going to be starting to interview actively, like any sort of mock interview, just do reps, whether it's friends, whether it's through our mock interview service or mentor service. Do something, anything. Just don't go in cold. Like your first interview in private equity should not be with an actual private equity fund.
Yeah.
Unless you really don't care.
Exactly.
about getting the offer, but really interesting. So that transition, so you finally get that offer. Was it like just this huge relief? You said you were feeling the pressure earlier.
Yeah, I was feeling the pressure at the end because as I told you, I was already an associate, and I understood that headhunters were calling me less because of my level of seniority, and so then I felt like, I'm running out of options, and time. So that's when I felt the pressure. But I still had like some interviews back then. By the time I accepted the offer at the fund where I'm currently working, I was still interviewing on another 2 more, and I was progressing. But then I decided to go for this fund and accept the offer.
Yep. Tell me a little bit about. Can we talk about pay a little bit coming up through your through Credit Suisse? You don't have to give exact numbers, but do you have a range of how it progressed first, second, third year, and then associate, and then how that changed into a middle market?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've raised them recently compared to when I started. And there are, if people want to have the right numbers, they can find them on Google. If they Google, investment banking compensation, you have like some
but
HR.
Bonuses. You must have gotten some pretty big bonuses because you were doing so many deals.
Yeah. No, look, but the bonuses works also depending on how your team did, on how the overall bank did that year. So it's not only on your performance. It is also your performance, but it's
as a third year analyst, did you have like 150% bonus or 200% bonus, something like that?
No, it was. I think in the US it's higher. In Europe, usually, if you are like a top analyst, you are around 100%, maybe a bit more, depending on the years. But not as much.
Very cool. Okay, and so then the transition to private equity, was it a pay cut for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not that much, but it was a bit. But look, at the end of the day, I think it's fine because, first of all, if you think that private equity is what you want to do, then it completely pays off, even though you're taking a small pay cut. Then at the end, you're doing something that you like more. So it makes sense. And then anyway, the more you progress, your salary and bonus will increase. And then also your carry. And,
do you have any carry as an associate when you started?
Yes.
You did?
I had a carry, a small carry.
Yep.
And to be fair, I see that most of the fund these days, they give carry to juniors. Now it depends, right? The bigger the fund, that's more difficult. But then usually they give you a higher bonus.
Base and bonus.
Yes.
So what do you mind me asking when you started in PE around what the base and bonus was?
Yeah, look, when I started, it was around probably between 80 and 90,000, the base. Bonus, it depends.
Is this USD or you're saying pounds?
Saying pounds.
Pounds, yes, that's pretty good.
Pounds, yeah. But look, I know of other friends that started other funds and they had lower. Yeah. Maybe like 70. Others, they got it higher. The problem with private equity, there is such a diverse sector where you have a small cap, big caps, new player, old player.
Right.
It's really difficult
carry, carry. It's
exactly.
How late in the fund are they? So it's hard to even quantify that. How did you quantify that carry? Did you say, okay, this carry, if the fund doubles in 5 years, this is how much it'll be worth?
Yeah, they basically, when I was talking with the seniors of my fund and about my offer, they told me, look, if we do 2x, 3x on the fund, and this is your carry. This is how much it will be worth.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a simple calc, right? Everyone
Yep.
can run it high level, of course.
Yep.
But to be fair, as a junior, I don't think you can negotiate carry that much.
No.
It's you should be grateful that you have it, by the way.
That's great. And do you have to stick around for that carry to vest?
So again, depends from fund to funds. The way it works is that sometimes, so there are different ways. You have like a vesting period.
Mm-hmm.
So it means that every year you get a portion of that a portion of your carry is vested.
Yep.
Then you have the lever provision. So, bad or good lever. So for example, if you leave it depends. So some funds, if you leave, you lose everything. Other funds, they will tell you, okay, if you leave and you're not a bad lever, then you can get, X% of your carry, of your vested carry.
Like if you're going to business school and they approve it or something like that, or if you're, for whatever reason, a good lever.
Yeah. But the point of the carry is that, it's a long-term game. So if you stay in the long term and the fund performs well, then you will make a lot of money. And to be fair, it's also, I think it makes sense because if you leave early on, then you didn't help your team and the fund towards these returns. So why would you be compensated? Particularly if you're a junior, right?
Right. It's hard if you're only there for a few years to really have that much impact on all the portfolio companies and stuff. Split of work, how much deal, how much portfolio company work, how much, and do you like it? Are you getting that operational experience?
Yeah, that's the great part.
Yeah,
that's the great part. And that's what I was looking for, is the mix, right? So when it's, it's deal execution, it's very transactional, very similar to investment banking. But the plus, at least from my point of view, is that you get to see much more. In investment banking, you are one of the advisor and you focus on what the advisor is good at.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe you read the other, due diligence reports, but you're not as involved in the discussion, all the discussion that goes behind it, that the private equity has with the different advisors. It depends. Also, it depends also of your level. If you're a junior, usually you are not always on all these calls. So you don't see as much. But when you are a junior in a private equity fund, you are on all these calls. So you speak with the tax advisor, you speak with the financial advisor, the bankers, you speak with the lawyers. So
and if you're good, they'll let you run the whole process.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you can really see much more. So you learn and you own the process 360.
Mm-hmm.
Whilst in investment banking, you were like a part of that process. Okay.
Yeah.
And then once you have acquired the company, then it becomes your portfolio company. Then again, depends from fund to fund, but usually you get to at least attend the board meetings. And so that's cool because, you get to hear from the management about the strategy, trading, and then following, for the next, board, you see what they discussed the first time, what happened, it's very interesting. And then again, some funds, they're more operational. So maybe you will be involved in the value creation plan. So you will be discussing with the CEO, CFO, COO on some of the strategic initiatives to deliver on the returns that the fund has underwritten and so on. So, and it's a mix of both, Of course, for example, this year, if you think about it, when COVID hit, it was, most of the process was put on hold and it was full-time operational, right? Because we had to help our portfolio companies managing, trying to understand what's the cash burn, defensive initiatives to save them or to minimize the loss, and then offensive initiatives on how to recover as soon as possible, as soon as, the emergency is over.
Yeah, it's fascinating because a lot of if there are PE funds exposed to like retail or restaurants or any of those industries or travel, hospitality, it's like they probably were in just crisis mode.
Yeah,
craziness. But yeah, go ahead.
It's true, but one interesting thing is, and I've learned it with my fund, is that in any sector there are always some jewels that no matter what, they will still perform well.
So, like us, Wall Street Oasis, we grew through during the pandemic.
You see.
Yeah, we happen to be lucky being an online training.
Yeah, exactly. And in any case, Patrick, there are always opportunities. So I think what we did is that when everything started is try to understand how, let's take those defensive actions that will help the company to weather the storm. But then at the same time, let's think offensive. So what can we do to advantage ourselves, our portfolio companies, so that when the emergency is over, we can, start faster and take an advantage versus some of our competitors.
Can you give an example of that? Not specific industry, but is it like a technology investment? Is it something else?
Exactly. Yeah. I think innovation. I think this coronavirus, has been bad under many different aspects. But one thing that an opportunity for, I think, any company in any sector was to take an advantage and step up their digital capabilities, because everyone was online, so you couldn't go out, you couldn't leave your house, your flat, but people were on browsing on internet.
Yeah.
So so a lot of think about healthcare. A lot of companies that they were not so keen about telemedicine, then they started launching about doctor online consultation, online drugs prescription. They launched ways to stay close to their clients.
Totally.
Or customers. Yeah. So this is an offensive strategy, and some companies took advantage of it. Others sat on the back seat and waited for better times to come. And guess who's winning?
Yeah. Yeah. Really interesting. Oh, well, I really appreciate you sharing all your wisdom and your story. Is there anything else before we call it that you'd like to share to the listeners about your story or words of wisdom that looking back in your path?
Yeah, I think the best advice I would like to give everyone is never give up. You will go through ups and downs in your career, but stay focused on what's your objective. And if your objective is to get into investment banking, work on it. And nowadays, again, learn and online. For example, through your website is full of useful information where you can learn and get to know, even though you don't have a strong network of investment bankers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you do reach out to these people.
LinkedIn is crazy.
LinkedIn, correct.
Crazy.
Correct.
You can get in touch with anybody.
Exactly. And if don't give up, because it might take time, but at the end of the day, the people that win are the people that don't give up. That's my opinion. So
don't give up, guys. You hear that? Okay.
Exactly.
Anyways, thanks so much, Max. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure, Patrick.
And thanks to you, my listeners at Wall Street Oasis. If you have any suggestions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to send them my way, patrick@wallstreetoasis.com. Until next time.